top news headlines from the news desk at the Katanning Paper right now on Radio for Your Neighborhood. AM 1380 and FM 103.7. WTYM, Katanning, Ford City.
Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock.
Before the board takes its action, I'd like the record to reflect that on February 6, 2019, I met in executive session with the three members of the Zoning Hearing Board. They met with me as their solicitor to discuss legal issues with regard to this application. That meeting lasted from 7 to 8:15 in the Ford City Municipal Building. As it was an executive session with a solicitor that was not an advertised session, there was no action taken. It was my role at that time to advise the Zoning Hearing Board on what I believe the law was with regard to a variance request, and then I provided the board an outline of what I believe the law is in this matter. However, it's up to the board to render their decision as the record was closed, and I will turn it back over to Mr. Thompson as the chairman of the Zoning Hearing Board to take final action with regard to this application.
When the Zoning Hearing Board considered the evidence presented, it was determined that the applicant failed to meet its burden of proof. To establish entitlement to a variance, an applicant must show an unnecessary hardship resulting from the property's unique physical conditions or circumstances, that such hardship is not self-imposed, that granting the variance would not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, and that the variance, if granted, would represent the minimum necessary to afford relief. With regard to each finding, the Zoning Hearing Board determines as follows: that unnecessary hardship exists which is not created by the party seeking the variance. There was very little evidence presented as to what the hardship is to the owner and why that hardship is unique to the particular property. That unnecessary hardship is caused by the unique physical circumstances of the property for which the variance is sought. There is very little evidence presented as to the unique physical circumstances with the property in question. The variance is needed to enable the party's reasonable use of the property. Pursuant to the provisions of the zoning ordinance, there are a substantial number of conditional uses set forth in the ordinance. There was no evidence presented as to why the owner of this property, Armstrong County Building and Loan, could not establish one of the permitted uses. While the applicant might not be able to reasonably use the property, the applicant does not own the property. The variance will not alter the essential character of a district or neighborhood, or substantially or permanently impair use or development of adjacent property such that it is detrimental to the public welfare. Evidence was presented by a number of persons that testified that the granting of a variance for the intended use would alter the essential character of the neighborhood. It is the opinion of the Zoning Hearing Board that the essential character of the neighborhood would be significantly altered and have the potential to be detrimental to the public welfare. That a variance will afford the least intrusive solution. It is the opinion of the Zoning Hearing Board that this variance, if granted, would not represent the least modification possible of the existing ordinance, and that other conditional uses would be more in line with the characteristic of the neighborhood and less detrimental to the public safety in that neighborhood. At this time, we're going to move and call for a vote. I need a motion to deny the variance as applied by Firetree Limited.
I make the motion.
I have a motion. I need a second.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It is the decision of the Zoning Hearing Board that Ford City Borough, after consideration of the evidence presented and for the reasons set forth above, denies this request for a zoning variance. Thank you very much for your patience and your attendance.
Radio for your neighborhood, AM 1380 and FM 103.7. WTYM, Katanning, Ford City.